move on, Nick. So we're going back to training camp now. I know I got us on this kind of rotation right now, but
I love it.
What is your biggest surprise through training camp up until this point?
Oh man, what is my biggest surprise through training camp? That's a tough one.
Because you've been there, so obviously
I've been there. No, I'd say everything's pretty much gone accordingly. I don't know if there's anything too major. I don't even want to speak on the injury behalf that they've been able to stay healthy up until this point, as I knock on wood that it stays that way. I'd say the biggest surprise is Trey Lance. I thought I loved the pick a week before. Go check my Twitter feed, go search. I said Trey Lance is the quarterback I want the 49ers to take. A week before the draft, I was sold on Trey Lance. I remember watching the draft and just having my heart was racing. Please don't be Mac Jones. Please don't be Mac Jones. I want Trey Lance. So I let off a huge sigh of relief. I love everything about the kid. I love that he refused to go to Minnesota to play safety. Other schools were recruiting him to play safety. He took the opportunity to play quarterback at a small FCS school. I love everything about Trey Lance. And I thought he would be good. I just don't think I expected him to light it up and make this loud of a noise early on in camp. And of course, it's kind of inevitable. He's a 3rd overall pick. There's a ton of hype already, but he's answering that. He's generating his own hype. It's not like he's a prospect like Trevor Lawrence, for example. Trevor Lawrence has been known throughout his entire collegiate career, was this huge prospect. That's not Trey Lance. Trey Lance had the opposite road getting to the NFL, a completely different road. He's generating his own hype. This hype has not always been around him. He generated it himself. And not to say that I'm sure Trevor Lawrence did a lot too throughout his high school days to generate his own buzz. But what I'm saying, like what's going on in camp right now, it's not the buzz of the 3rd overall pick. It's the buzz of this 3rd overall pick is making jaw-dropping play after jaw-dropping play. I was there. This is when I was sold. The play where he evaded a rush, dropped back, rolled out to his left, and kind of jumped through. It wasn't like a Mahomes complete jump throw across the body, but he was rolling out to the left, was across his body, and just dropped it 50 yards downfield to Trent Sherfield. And I was like, I texted Bonte Hill, my guy, 95.7 the game right away. Trey Lance, I just can't believe he just completed this pass. And Bonte Hill, Joe Shasky, they were there the Saturday before I saw Lance, just immediately hyping him up. You can see it right away. Just the subtleties of what he does, just how much more athletic he is than Jimmy Garoppolo. He just has the it factor. He has the it factor. The teammates gravitate towards him. He's just gushing with confidence in a way where it doesn't come off as cocky. He just knows he's that guy, but he wants to support everybody. He's not standing out. He's just a good dude from my observations, not knowing him personally, that I feel like this franchise is very lucky to have. So my biggest surprise through training camp is the storyline of Trey Lance. I just can't wait to see him take action Saturday night.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously been the biggest news. I mean, I've never seen the 49ers get so much national attention for their quarterback in a while, right? So I'm just seeing like on SportsCenter, on FS1, on the talk shows, nationally, people are talking about how well Trey Lance is doing, which, you haven't seen that, at least in recent memories, for that to happen. But I think for me, the biggest thing is Dee Ford, man. Like, I remember going on about a month ago on Grant's Roundtable, and we were talking about the worst contracts for the 49ers. And I said Dee Ford because we're paying a man who probably won't play for us ever again, right? Mm-hmm. And to see him not on the PUP list, actually in pads, actually working out with the guy. He's doing more than Nick Bosa is doing in training camp.
He is.
What people don't realize about that 2019 pass rush, there was a pass rush with Dee Ford, and then there was the pass rush without Dee Ford. And we don't want to talk about it, but without Dee Ford, even with Buckner in there, it was pretty pedestrian. And then when Dee Ford was in there, when Dee Ford was in there, it was elite. So more than Buckner, Dee Ford was the driving force and opened up so many avenues for the defensive line. So to have him back, and you just talked about, if he has the athleticism still to run down Trey Lance and make sure that he doesn't get off on yards, I can only imagine what he's going to be capable of doing throughout the whole season. to me, that was the biggest surprise.
I'm right there with you. And it's funny that you say that. I'm trying to pull something up real quick. So I wrote an article. And here it is. I just pulled it up. The biggest storyline. This is literally what the article was titled. It's so funny that you just said Dee Ford. So I said in my article, the biggest non-Trey Lance storyline for the 49ers, the return of Dee Ford. And I have the splits right here for you because you're 100% correct. The difference with and without Dee Ford in 2019. So with Ford in 2019, points allowed per game, 15.6. Without him, nearly 26. So there was over a 10-point differential without Dee Ford on the field. Passing yards allowed per game, 163. 163. Let that sink in for a little bit. Only 163 passing yards per game when Dee Ford was on the field, 214 without him. Sacks per game. There was a 2.5 sack per game fall off. You averaged 4 sacks with Dee Ford on the field, 1.5 without him. And then Nick Bosa, I thought this was a fun little caveat just to show how Bosa needs that running mate. Bosa averaged nearly a sack per game, 0.85 sacks per game with Ford, and then without him, only a sack every 3 games. So Dee Ford really was the ultimate X factor of that 2019 defense, and I'm right there. I don't think we could have named 2 better players than Trey Lance and Dee Ford to answer the question, because it's totally accurate. I'm right. I thought Dee Ford was done. The fan base thought Dee Ford was done. The 49ers Twitter community thought Dee Ford was done. And just to have him out there and see how he's moving around, it's just a bonus. It's the cherry on top of the cake.
Absolutely. And it's more than a cherry. Whatever's higher than the cherry on top, like it's like
handle.
It's like expecting, just some average girl like Kim Kardashian walks through the door. You know what I mean? It's like the best thing that you could possibly imagine. And Absolutely. I could only imagine the rest of the NFC West is like, now what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we got to rip up the playbook because Dee Ford is there now. Now we got to worry about Dee Ford and Nick Bosa.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. On top of it, more than anything, it's not that they're freaking out over Dee Ford. It's now like Dee Ford's back on top of Samson Ebukam, the returning Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead being able to play inside, Javon Kinlaw year 2, Maurice Hurst, Arden Key. Like, you just fire off these names of big-time NFL defensive linemen. It's just mind-blowing. I hadn't even said Kevin Givens. I haven't said Contavious Street, Darian Daniels. There's just so many people on that defensive line. It's just crazy. And the fact that Dee Ford's back is huge.
Yep, I agree, man. So